The Grand Council chamber reeked of sterilized arrogance. Every polished surface gleamed under artificial sunlight, an endless loop of grandeur meant to awe and intimidate. Delegates of the 100 species sat arranged in tiers, posture perfect, cloaked in tradition and centuries of complacent superiority. In the center of it all, beneath a skylight designed to look like the binary suns of the imperial throne world, an empty circle awaited Earth's first official appearance. Most thought it ceremonial, harmless, for show. They were wrong. When the floor split with a grinding groan and metal screamed against metal, no one stood. No one applauded. They stared as two machines emerged, ascending slowly on a lift from the depths beneath the chamber. Tanks. Not the clean, plasma-sleek weapons of the galaxy's elite. No, these were rugged, ugly, scarred beasts. One of them had its front caked in a dried maroon smear, streaks of alien blood visible even from the upper balconies. The other bore claw marks on its side, deep enough to suggest something desperate had tried, and failed to stop it. The tanks settled into place with a mechanical sigh. Their engines clicked into silence. Then she walked in. Not escorted, not introduced. She strode between the tanks in a black coat sharp enough to cut through the artificial calm. Her hands were empty, her face unreadable. One side was smeared with blood, hers or someone else's, no one could tell. She didn't wipe it off. She didn't explain. The room remained silent. 1,000 species and not one sound. The Speaker of the Council, a translucent-skinned ascendant whose kind had colonized stars before humanity discovered fire, finally cleared its throat sac. Human delegate, your entrance violates your rules, the woman said. Yes, we're aware. That was her voice. Crisp, earth-accented, unapologetic. You were invited here to answer charges of destabilizing the Rim territories. Another voice rang out, this one a bloated, multi-eyed Dominion elder. Not parade war machines. We didn't come to answer, she replied. We came to deliver. She opened her coat slightly and removed a small device. With a flick, the chamber's central hollow projector flared to life. No imperial fanfare. No elegant preamble. Just a burst of static and then footage, raw, unfiltered, and brutal. A jungle. Smoke. Screams. Alien soldiers, Charid, known for their elite precision, moving in formation. Then chaos. A tank erupts from the underbrush like a nightmare on treads, cannon booming, machine gun roaring, and the ground explodes into fire and death. The feed switches, scorch cities, human infantry fighting with a kind of coordinated madness, bodies piled high. Empire, not Earth. Again and again. Tank engines rumble like judgment. Blood spatters the lens. This is not diplomacy, spat a winged Helydran ambassador. This is propaganda. No, the human said. This is context. The holofeed paused. The woman looked around. We didn't start the war. The Empire did. On paper, we were unfit for galactic contact. Too violent. Too primitive. Emotionally unstable. That's what your council wrote. She turned her gaze to the high seats. But then you came for our colonies. Thought it would be easy. One world fell. Then another. But you didn't understand what happens when humans lose homes. Families. We don't calculate outcomes. We make you regret ever thinking in terms of outcomes. The Dominion elders' tendrils squirmed. You escalated. Burned entire planets. Used forbidden technologies. The woman nodded. We improvised. You see desperation. We call it creativity. She waved again. More footage. Alien prisoners crying. Human medics treating enemy wounded. Children being carried out of rubble by bloodied soldiers. Some of the same soldiers later shown manning the tanks, now parked behind her. You want to talk laws. Protocols. Treaties, she said. But those only exist for those allowed to speak at your tables. For the rest of us, we bled in silence. We built in silence. We fought back in silence. And now we're done being silent. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some of the lesser races, those with seats but no voice, looked at each other. Some nodded. You dare threaten this body, the ascendant speaker said. voice shaking for the first time in 1,000 cycles. "I'm not threatening you," she said, smiling for the first time. It wasn't a warm smile. She turned and walked between the tanks. Tapped one. It roared to life. Everyone flinched. But it didn't fire. It projected. A map. The border regions. Once all under Imperial control. Now, half was marked in crimson. "This is what remains of your hold on the rim. We didn't come to take territory. We came to end conquest. You can keep debating. We'll keep moving." The projection vanished. She turned once more, standing before the council's main dais. "We're not here to be recognized," she said. "We're here so you understand that ignoring us is no longer an option. You will either share this galaxy or bury your dead in it." The room descended into a kind of quiet not even the dead enjoy. The tanks powered down. The woman bowed, not deep, not submissive, just enough to make them guess. Then she said, "Next time, don't send diplomats. Send survivors." And she walked away. They thought Earth would fold. A rogue Outer Rim colony refusing tribute was an inconvenience, not a threat. The Empire dispatched a sterilization fleet, expecting another display of orbital superiority. Instead, they lost contact. Not just comms, entire units vanished. The last transmission was static, then a single phrase in broken galactic standard: "We are not done." At first, the Council dismissed it. Statistical anomaly, environmental failure, unstable atmosphere, the usual bureaucratic whitewash. Then it happened again, 3 more systems, 3 more disappearances. No distress calls, no wreckage, just silence. The 5th Armada was sent to restore order. 70 ships, 5,000 troops. They entered Earth-controlled space with banners high and weapons primed. Only 32 returned. The survivors didn't speak. Some couldn't. One had carved a message into their own armor during extraction: "Don't send us back." What followed was classified, buried beneath layers of Imperial protocol and shame. But rumors leaked, as they always do. Whispers of tanks appearing from nowhere, of artillery built in caves and fired from cliffs, of soldiers who fought without fear, without end, without mercy. "They don't follow logic," said Commander Drathis before he resigned. "They follow pain." The turning point was Varnak 7. The Empire considered it a testbed, a chance to show the galaxy how rebellion would be crushed. They brought shock troops, heavy armor, orbital support, the usual overwhelming force. What they didn't bring was imagination. Varnak 7 was mountainous, thick, with radiation storms and terrain sensors couldn't penetrate. They expected rebels. They found traps. Tunnels, disinformation campaigns so intricate that half the Imperial forces shot each other before a human ever pulled a trigger. The tanks didn't engage conventionally. They hid, moved at night, appeared only to destroy, then vanished. One squad reported seeing their own supply convoy driving toward them, except it wasn't theirs. It was human-made, stolen, loaded with explosives, and detonated remotely as they approached. The Empire called it dishonorable. The Council called it savage. The humans called it Tuesday. An internal memo leaked from the Dominion's high command. Humans don't fight for victory. They fight to ensure you never try again. The Council tried to negotiate. Not with Earth, of course. They still refused to acknowledge humanity as equals. They tried bribing their allies, offering planets, credits, promises. It didn't work. Anyone aligned with Earth refused payment. When asked why, one leader simply responded, "They saved our children." That was enough. The psychological war deepened. Human AIs began infiltrating comms. Not to jam them, but to speak. Repeating the names of dead Imperial officers in perfect cadence. Playing their own security footage back to them at night. Glitching lights in barracks to flash in Morse, "We see you." The Empire retaliated with sanctioned war crimes. Entire moons glassed. Civilian outposts wiped clean. They broadcast footage, hoping to intimidate. It backfired. The next human strike came 3 days later. No grand announcement. No invasion force. Just tanks. 300 tanks dropped from orbit, their descent masked by debris storms, landing directly inside a fortified installation. No warning. No mercy. The base surrendered within 6 hours. The tanks didn't accept. When questioned post-capture, a human commander answered flatly, "You thought this was a game. You don't get to surrender when the game ends." The empire began to fracture. Allied species withdrew troops. Sectors declared independence. The Council issued panic decrees about peace and order and unity. Earth never replied. On Osar Prime, an alien journalist embedded with Imperial forces wrote, "They don't wear medals. They don't chant. They just walk through fire like it was built for them." She died 2 days later when her convoy was hit by a human IED. Her last photo was of a tank passing through the smoke, blood across its treads, children clinging to its side. No human in the frame. No face. Just presence. The Council still refused to acknowledge Earth as a formal entity. No seat. No flag. No anthem. But the war zones told another story. Soldiers abandoned posts if a human signal pinged nearby. Entire legions laid down arms when they heard tank engines in the distance. Some shot themselves. Others fled. The tanks became myth. Ghosts in steel. They didn't fly. They didn't beam down from pristine shuttles. They rumbled out of ruins, always dirt-covered, always marked by battle. The Empire hired mercenaries, offered planetary lordships, wealth beyond reason. They sent the best. The best died. A captured mercenary once said, "You can't win." They don't care if they survive. They care if you remember them. By the time the Council realized what had shifted, it was too late. 57 former Imperial planets now operated autonomously, with human advisors. Not rulers. Not conquerors. Just the ones who got things done. A counselor finally said aloud what others had feared to whisper, "We don't control the galaxy anymore." The tanks didn't fly flags. They didn't need to. Their paint jobs were chipped. Their steel was old. But they moved like gods among insects. And when the blood dried, they never cleaned it. Because humans believed memory was sacred. And every smear, every dent, every ruined plate of armor was a name, a scream, a vow never to forget what had been done. They didn't need a monument. They were the monument. The Council called an emergency summit. Attendance was mandatory. Every empire, vassal, trade federation, and religious state sent delegates. Some arrived cloaked in defiance, others in desperation. Most simply hoped someone else would take responsibility first. The chamber was filled with the usual pomp, banners, oaths, ancestral quotes carved into the walls by extinct species. But no one was really thinking about tradition. They were all thinking about Earth. Humanity hadn't made demands. That's what disturbed them most. No ultimatums, no treaties, no promises of alliance or surrender. Just tanks and silence. Every war protocol the Council had ever written required an opponent to articulate goals. Without that, the Council had no script to follow. They were improvising in front of an audience that no longer respected them. The speaker took the floor first. He listed grievances, acts of aggression, broken laws. He spoke of galactic order, of the balance between civilization and chaos. He used words like unprecedented, barbaric, irrational. He warned that if unchecked, the humans could unravel 1,000 years of peace. Then a voice cut through the chamber. "Calm. Human. You mistake peace for silence." A figure stood near the back, unnoticed until she spoke. The same one from before. The black coat, the blood-streaked cheek, the unimpressed eyes. This time, she didn't bring tanks. She brought data. A single command launched holograms into the air. Charts. Maps. Logs. Not doctored. Not filtered. These weren't curated narratives, but raw feeds from Council archives, decrypted and reassembled. War crimes. Cover-ups. Exploited species. Economies hollowed out by corporate proxies funded by imperial banks. The audience saw their own history, rewritten by Earth's hand to expose the rot underneath. Every delegate flinched as familiar lies collapsed. "You didn't build peace," she said. "You built silence." You called it peace because no one had the power to tell you no. The Ascendant tried to interrupt, but she kept going. Her voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. Earth's strength wasn't forged in conquest. It was forced upon us. We asked for a seat. You ignored us. We begged for inclusion. You mocked us. You burned our border colonies and called it policy. You sent assassins and called it diplomacy. She paused, letting it hang. No one spoke, so we stopped asking. She lifted another device. Footage played again. This time it wasn't battle. It was aftermath. Rebuilding. Human engineers helping insectoid miners reroute infrastructure on a shattered moon. Human medics stitching up lizardfolk children. Human tanks parked not in conquest, but in protection. Guarding marketplaces. Stabilizing borders. Doing what the Council refused to do. You keep asking what we want, she said. We don't want your throne. We want it gone. You built a galaxy on fear. On compliance. That ends now. One of the older empires, slow, amphibious, deeply traditional, croaked. You speak as if you've already won. She looked at him like he'd missed the point entirely. You don't win a new world. You build it. The chamber's energy shifted. For the first time, factions turned inward, gauging who might defect, who might already have. The illusion of unity shattered. And without unity, the Council was just noise in robes. She stepped forward, and with a gesture, a new projection appeared. A network. A growing web of systems, worlds, species. Some fully aligned with Earth, others neutral, but all now outside Council authority. Each had been offered the same choice. Join and be defended. Stay out and be respected. Interfere and be removed. Simple. Final. Fair. You rule through fear. We lead through memory. That line hit differently. Not poetic. Just true. Every action Earth had taken was archived. Every battle, every loss, every saved life. Humans didn't erase history. They engraved it. That's why their tanks stayed bloodstained. Not to intimidate, but to remember. To remind everyone, including themselves, what it had cost to be heard. A dozen delegates stood and left. Quietly. Not in protest, resignation. The old order was already dead. Earth hadn't destroyed it. They had revealed it. Then she said what no one was prepared to hear. This is the last time we'll stand in this room. Gasps. Protests. Accusations of cowardice. Threats of retaliation. She waited until it stopped. We're not abandoning diplomacy, she said. We're replacing it. There's a new council being formed. A council where every species has equal voice. No gods. No empires. Just beings. You're welcome to join, but you won't be needed. The threat wasn't in her words. It was in her calm. A galaxy that had feared Earth's aggression now feared something worse. Irrelevance. She turned to leave. One final line as she walked away. Next time, don't summon humans. Invite them. And then she was gone. The chamber sat in silence. No music. No closing rituals. Just the soft hum of a fallen order collapsing under the weight of its own denial. And somewhere across a dozen fractured stars, tanks kept rolling, not toward conquest, but toward permanence. Not to destroy, but to ensure no one was forgotten again.